FLX Weekly here on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. I'm Jim Sinicropi inside the FingerLakes1.com studios here in Seneca Falls, New York. We have another Wine Wednesday edition of the show with Cayuga Lake Wine Trail Director Katherine Chase, along with Knapp Winery owner Cole Wilson and head chef Benjamin Bird. We'll be sampling some dishes, one from lunch menu, one from the dinner, and a dessert, along with pairing them with wines from Knapp. But first, this episode of FLX Weekly is brought to you by Pine Point Medical. Their mission is to provide you with personalized, high-quality care and are dedicated to improving your health through evidence-based medicine and treatment. If you need a doctor who puts you first, try an independent physician-owned practice. Schedule your appointment at pinepointmed.com or in person in their office in Lansing. And also Blush by CV Designs, a local woman-owned business in the heart of the Finger Lakes offering women's clothing and accessories, quality home goods, and unique gifts. See what everyone's talking about by visiting their location in downtown Seneca Falls or browse all of their products online at shopcvdesigns.com. And Christine gets way ahead of things. I know that she's preparing her fall stuff is already on display, Halloween, and she has Christmas things on order. So she's always a step ahead. So as you're getting your home ready to transition now from summer to fall, stop into CV Designs or check out their website at shopcvdesigns.com. So, great Wine Wednesday edition here. Katherine, welcome back.
Thank you for having us again.
You brought friends this time,
sure did.
and you brought lunch and beverages.
I did. I wanted to take the pressure off myself and let them do all the work this time.
So really excited to have Cole Wilson here along with Ben Bird, Chef Ben Bird, someone I know well. If you've been around here long enough, you've probably, sampled his food in different locations at Knapp Winery now, and he's prepared some stuff that looks great for us. Before we get to that, Cole, you and your wife Karen have owned Knapp Winery, one of the most historic wineries in the region now since December of 2021. So, what's the experience been like, and how are things looking about 2 years in?
Things are looking very, very good. We've made a lot of changes, but tried to keep the spirit of traditions of Knapp alive. We've changed all our labels. We bought a new tractor, and specifically we sort of upgraded the restaurant. Years ago, or in recent history, before we got there, they'd been down to, I think, just lunches on weekends.
Yeah.
We are now open 5 days a week for lunch and dinner. It has its own name. It's called Field and Vine. We've hired an amazing chef, Benjamin here, and we're very excited about it. And that's been an exciting thing. And we're finally now like 22 whites that are available now. We're 100% ours. I mean, our winemakers start to finish. It takes a long time to make wine, so you don't start selling your own real stuff until a year in. So.
Yeah, it's cool, and you have put your mark on it with the labeling on the bottles, which we'll share with everybody here shortly. Chef Ben, what's it been like? So you come into this and basically building a new restaurant experience from scratch with Field and Vine.
Right, yes. Yeah, I started at the beginning of the season when Cole had this vision, and then we worked with John. He's been there for a long time, so he knows a lot of the ins and outs of things. And we broke ground on building a garden, and now we're starting to harvest a lot of that stuff out of our own garden and things like that. So, coincides with the grapes, the growing of the grapes. We grow some fruits and vegetables. I put some of those things on the menu as well. It's been really a positive, experience and to be a part of a good thing going in the right direction.
And there's an interesting clientele, I suppose, at a winery restaurant like this. Although you're trying to get it to stand alone, you have the locals who you obviously want to attract, and then a lot of people passing through. What is the feedback and been like from guests?
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a unique problem, or opportunity, if you want to call it that. I think it's an opportunity, but our lunch service and our dinner service are very, very different things, because the general clientele at lunch is on the wine trail and wants a quick bite, and they want to get back to tasting wines or going to the next winery. So it has to be food that can be sort of made quickly, and people tend not to linger there, although they're welcome to. And then dinner, of course, is a very, these are people who are almost by definition driving 20 minutes at the least to get there. So that is a much more, you expect to sit down and have a really nice meal and a really
It's a great venue.
great wine, and sit and relax and have maybe multiple courses. And so the dinner and lunch is different, and that I think is a challenge for Ben, on like a good challenge.
Yeah, it is completely different. People are on the wine trail during the day, obviously, so we have a little bit more of a different type of business and a different flow.
Yeah.
And then at dinner, people want to take it a little bit slower. They want to hang out a little bit longer, which is totally fine and totally acceptable. And we'll find people from Utah, Texas, Florida, Maryland, all sorts of different states
Yeah,
in
they're
the parking
coming.
lot. Yeah, that are hanging out there and having a good time and enjoying everything.
It's pretty cool too, because if you are doing the wine trails, a lot of places, not every place, but a lot of places, once 536 rolls around, that's it. So people can now plan, okay, I'm going to make Knapp my final stop, and I'm going to have dinner. And sometimes, as a local, it's nice to be able to get out to a winery, after normal wine touring hours, which there are a few spots that are starting to offer that. So whether it's live music or, in this case, an actual full-service restaurant on site, that's great. I got to ask before we go any further about the arm. What happened there?
No worries. I was trying to show off, thinking I was younger than I was. I was water skiing, and I don't want to gross anyone else out there, but it pulled the tendon off the bone of my bicep tendon, so I had surgery.
And do you avid water skier, or was
I
this?
am, actually. I've been water skiing since I was like 5.
So
that's
just
why I thought I was better than I was.
And Cole, you and your wife Karen are involved in this venture. What's that like, working, with your spouse in a business like this?
Oh, my wife is fantastic. There actually is very little conflict. I mean, we talk continuously almost about the winery all the time. That might be a problem because we sort of neglect other conversations. But she's super supportive. She comes up with some great ideas, and it's nice to have someone who isn't there every day, because sometimes you get lost in the trees, and she can sort of see the forest sometimes and say, maybe we should think about this or do that. And so it's really nice.
So I mentioned one of the most historic wineries in the region, celebrating their 40th year, right, Katherine?
Yeah.
Is same as the Cayuga Lake Wine Trail.
We both turned 40.
So
Proud of it.
and when you look at the industry, 1984,
1983, yeah.
1983, how much has changed in what a relatively short period of time. The way the whole industry has kind of grown up around, the originals like Knapp, and it is pretty amazing. What's your thoughts on just the general state of the wine industry here in the Finger Lakes?
I think, do we have like 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah, right. We could do a whole show. We do a documentary.
But the Finger Lakes has sort of been, taken 40 years to become an overnight success. As I said, but it is finally getting some world recognition, and deservedly so. And so I think, the quality of the wines has increased drastically in the last 40 years. I think it's just going to continue. Without going into too much, but I know that we're starting to attract winemakers and vineyard managers from outside the area. It's no longer because they want to come here because it's a neat place they feel like it's the cutting edge for wines.
Yeah, and our climate is almost future-proof with everything going on in the world right now, and other wine regions in the world, with wildfires or droughts or whatever it is, all the challenges. We're kind of insulated up here in the Finger Lakes with a perfect, climate now for growing grapes and turn them into great wine.
It can be, I wouldn't say perfect, but yes. it can
Near
be.
perfect.
So, the weather changes, some of the frosts, the colds and stuff.
Yeah, well, this year we had drought
Very-
conditions early.
Yeah.
It wasn't really technically a drought, but we didn't get rain for, about a month straight in June, followed by rain every day for about a month and a half. And now we're cooling down a little bit, and hopefully, how's your
Harvest
harvest
is
looking?
right around the corner. We'll probably be harvesting our first grapes, a grape called Zigareba, which always comes early, probably next week, maybe the week after.
Okay.
And then some of the other grapes, will probably still hang for another month. But it's
Awesome.
coming. Everybody that you can feel the winery, it's sort of a buzz. Everyone's
Mhm.
cleaning, power washing things, fixing things, making sure we're all set. So.
This is
And-
when the anxiety kind of sets in, though, with the weather and stuff like that, because this is when it needs to be perfect.
Right. You don't want a lot of rain. You don't want those
Yeah.
mildewy. And
Yeah.
so in addition to the dry and then wet, we also had a pretty severe frost late in the spring. How did everything hold up for you guys?
We really lucked out, and I gotta say, I feel for the vineyards that other vineyards that did not. So, it was pure luck. There's no quality,
Yeah.
part of this. But we had a couple blocks that were far away from the lake that did get pretty severely damaged, but everything else was pretty much didn't get the damage. So
Well, that's good.
we truly were lucked out.
So I mentioned we have some great food wine pairings here. So these are actually right off the menu stuff you can get, at the Field and Vine restaurant at Knapp, along with 3 different wines here. And so let's start it off. Paul, get an overview here of what we'll be having. So first we'll have brisket.
Yep.
Off the lunch menu, salmon off the dinner menu, and then off the dessert menu, and we'll go one by one and let Chef Ben kind of tell us what we'll be enjoying, and then also the wine that we'll be pairing. So we have the brisket, and that'll be paired with I have trouble saying this word.
Blaufränkisch.
Blaufränkisch. Knapp's Blaufränkisch 2021.
21.
Available for sale now, all these at the winery. So, what am I eating here, man?
So that's our house smoked brisket. Well, I'm sorry, it's not actually smoked. We do it overnight. I'd put it on top of the house-made focaccia bread. I make that for both the tasting room and the dinner menu. Now I've transitioned and put a piece of it on the lunch menu as well. I put chipotle barbecue sauce over top. We do a little bit of coleslaw to kind of offset the heat from the barbecue sauce.
And do you suggest pairings with the menu items?
A couple of our menu items on the menu get suggested pairings with it, but it's all, by taste of what you like.
Somebody else talk for a second.
We're just watching you enjoy it.
I'll say something about the wine. Just Blaufränkisch, or Limburger, as other people it's known, tends to have. I try not to tell people what they should taste, but consensus is that it has a sort of a tobacco, smoky leather taste. And focusing on the smoke is why we paired it with the brisket, because barbecue sauce tends to have smoky flavors. The brisket can have some smoky flavors, and that's why we paired it with this.
That first
It's
bite.
really good on its own. It's really light.
And I've said it before, Finger Lakes becoming more and more known for great reds, and this is fantastic.
And this is estate grown. It's all our own grapes, and not this vintage, but last year's vintage won the best Blaufränkisch in New York State in the New York Classic.
Cool. That's the same one that the Governor's Cup comes out of.
Tender brisket, homemade focaccia. Was it Chipotle barbecue?
Chipotle barbecue. Yes.
Fantastic. And then, when you take a sip of the wine, it all comes together. Just great. I mean, This is my kind of
That's on our lunch menu.
delicious coleslaw.
We do 11 o'clock to 3:30, 5 days a week.
Yeah, after this, you can actually come to the restaurant and have it again. If you
Oh, I will. And I think, one of the challenges that probably to launch this restaurant is it is off the beaten path, which is one of the appeals of great winery restaurants. But, letting people know that you're there, that you're open, and, it's in the middle of Seneca County, kind of, so you can draw from all sorts of places, whether it's south, Trumansburg and Ithaca, or north, Seneca Falls, Waterloo, Geneva, and then kind of let word of mouth take over, from there, and it certainly would if I took the trip and put this in front of me, I'd tell my friends.
It's perfect, though, for the vacationer who's staying right on the lake. They don't have to go into Ithaca. They don't have to go into Seneca Falls. If you're staying at Cayuga Lake Cabins or any of the Airbnbs, Knapp is right there for lunch or dinner, which that's their only option. And up until the last couple of years, they didn't have that opportunity whatsoever to eat without having to travel too far.
Love this wine. So it's a 2021 vintage, and mention the new labeling, and you'll see it throughout as we go through the
I love
menu
the new
here.
labels. They're so attractive.
just a thought about the labels is because you tied in earlier, asked me about what's it like having a winery that was 40 years old and stuff. So even though they're brand new labels, the grape leaf on the K, which you might be able to see on a different label better, was on the original labels.
On the glass as well.
Yeah, right there. And then
That grape leaf we carried forward because we wanted to make sure that the public and everyone realized that we were still Knapp. That things weren't changing. We're just modernizing. We weren't throwing out.
Yeah, and for someone who's been living here my whole life and has been exposed to Knapp for my most of my adult life, for sure. I was in 6th grade, I think, when they opened. It is good to see that that you can connect the old with the new. And so moving on to the dinner menu, white wine, 2022 vintage, Seyval Blanc.
Seyval Blanc, yep.
And tell us a little bit about this wine.
So Seyval Blanc is very similar to Sauvignon Blanc. So it has sort of a clean, crisp flavors, some minerality. Should go really well with the salmon. And again, this is estate grown, our own grapes.
Which is something that needs to be pointed out because a lot of wineries buy grapes. Sometimes they're not even from the region. Every winery does it different, but with a place like Knapp, it's all like contained.
Yeah, I would. For full disclosure, not everything we make is we do buy grapes. Only from the Finger Lakes. We will not buy a grape from anywhere else but the Finger Lakes. As a business, we both buy and sell grapes because the wines we make and the grapes we grow don't mesh completely.
Well, that's kind of a requirement, I guess, for everybody, to be able to have some flexibility there. But so, Chef Ben, what do we have here from the dinner menu? Salmon?
Yeah, so that's our teriyaki salmon. Pair that with a fried rice. I have a wonton crisp on there and some sauteed sesame celery. Light teriyaki glaze.
Let's give it a try here. I'm going to try to get a little everything in this first bite.
It's hard to want to talk while he's eating because I just want to watch him eat.
Yeah.
He promised to share afterwards, but I just feel like he's not gonna, based on how satisfied he looks.
Delicious. I mean, the salmon stands on its own here, perfectly cooked. Teriyaki glaze is great on top of the fried rice. And pairs well with the blanc. I mean, it's beautiful.
Sounds like a perfect summer meal if it's really hot, sitting by the vineyard.
Yeah. I like that it has not only a couple different taste layers, it has different texture layers as well.
Right.
Rice, and I put an egg in there, so it gives it a little softness. The wonton crisp can, you can eat that at your leisure. It can crispen The celery should have a little bite to it as well.
Scoop up some fried rice. On the wonton.
I can hear that crunch.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Delicious. Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a perfect piece of salmon. I should mention, you had to prepare this, bring it up here to the studio,
Yeah,
and it's still, it's fantastic.
yeah. I get all my seafood fresh on Fridays. I have a big morning of wrapping a table in the back with plastic wrap and prepping all the fish and cutting it. I hand cut it and hand trim it and try to use as much as I can and put out a nice consistent piece of fish.
Yeah, fantastic.
Do you guys offer takeout options at all?
We do.
It sounds like it travels so well.
I'm hesitating because yes, you can
Yeah.
you can call and order for takeout. It's not a big part of the business.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure.
And not all the food does travel
Sure.
that well, but yes.
It might be more of a lunch request, like
We
as
do-
you
we-
said, since they
we
want
do
to
get a lot of
go
people who order to go. They do a tasting in the winery, and they order to go, and then once their tasting's done, that's about a half hour to 45 minutes. Their food is ready, and they take it with them to the next place. Those are the ones who are really trying to maximize
make use of
every
their
minute.
day. Yeah. We would rather you go there and enjoy the time there, but
Well, that's one part of the thing, that I've become accustomed to doing too, is we used to set up a wine trail day, whether it was Cayuga, Seneca, Canandaigua, Cayuga, wherever it was we planned on going that day. We'd say, okay, let's hit these 6 wineries, we'll go here first at this time, then we'll go here, and then when we're done, and that was never as fun as saying, okay, let's hit these 3 wineries, and then the third one, let's spend a little extended time there just relaxing, because you do like to taste as much wine as you can, but there's a limit, to how much you
Yes.
could taste, and then part of the experience is just being in the present at a certain winery. And I found when your itinerary is so packed that it kind of takes away from the enjoyment level. So,
yeah.
and so next time we look at taking a wine trail on Cayuga Lake, I could see us driving south. We live in Seneca Falls, work our way back up north, and hit up 2 or 3 wineries, and with the final one being Knapp, and we stay for dinner there. I mean, perfect, right?
Yep. I get frequent questions about that. People will call, which winery should I go to? How many? I suggest 4. After that, it starts to become blurry. You don't really remember what you tasted. Honestly, you can obviously go to more if you want, but 4 is about, I think, your palate limit before it all does start to blur together. And I do recommend building in lunch and or now dinner, that's an option. Because why waste that good local option now that it's here?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm trying to think about my next couple weeks with what we have planned and when I can get out there for dinner with my wife. It's a 10-minute drive for us probably.
Oh yeah.
And like I say, beautiful venue, and the food obviously is incredible. And of course, what meal would be complete without dessert?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we have here, Ben?
That's house-made bread pudding. This one is particularly cream puff bread pudding.
Oh God.
I made the raspberry puree on the bottom, fresh raspberries. I make pound cake for the bread pudding. That's got cream puffs in it. It's got a cinnamon and lemon creme glace.
And we're pairing with a dessert wine.
Yes, Forte Bianco, which is first for, well, everything's a first for us, but it's first for Knapp. It's a white port, but we can't call it port anymore.
Port style.
Port style, yes. I'm gonna get in trouble even here. But it's late harvest vignoles, and then some fortification. So it's got some alcohol and the sweet, and it goes great with desserts.
It's only been out a handful of weeks, right?
Like a week,
Barely, yeah.
maybe a week and a half. It hasn't been very long. I'm really loving this wine. This is
Yeah, so a lot of
yeah.
people, yeah, that's delicious,
Wow.
and obviously, it's sweet along with the sweet dessert, but it is refreshing. I mean, it's you're not overpowered by the sweetness. It has a nice body to it too, which really cuts through the.
Yeah, and it has complexities. I mean, if you drink it on your own, on its own, you can get all sorts of flavors that, you know.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of spice in
The
there.
bread
I
pudding
can't
is light,
tell, but
flavorful. The raspberry puree is perfect. This is fantastic.
I'm just going to jump in and be mentioned because you were mentioning, you know, we are sort of out in the middle of nowhere, quote unquote, but at the same time, we're a 30-minute or less drive from Ithaca, Geneva, Seneca Falls, Waterloo. So,
Yeah, really centrally located.
if you really, if you know, it's not that hard
No.
to come even from the cities, if you want to call them that.
what we call
That's-
cities, yeah.
Bread pudding's awesome. Nice crunch on the top, soft and fluffy and light in the middle. Delicious. And like I mentioned, that raspberry puree is perfect. And I think people get scared of ports. I don't think a lot of people don't know exactly what it
It's
is.
intimidating
It
sounding.
tends to be
yeah.
more expensive for a smaller bottle. But the idea is that these are the last grapes picked, right?
Yep.
You get super sweet as they are on the vine.
Exactly.
And and so like the extreme would be the ice wines, right? Those
Correct.
stay really late.
Into January
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah, these were picked, I think, don't quote me, but I think these were picked in December last year.
Yeah. It's still really late though.
Still very late. Yeah, Vanessa, I should have mentioned Vanessa a long time ago. She's our winemaker, fantastic winemaker. I am so lucky to have her. So
And is
She's
she
done a
new?
lot.
Was she?
she's new. She started with me, if you will. I brought her on when we bought
Yeah.
Knapp. So
She's done the labels, hasn't she?
what's that?
Did she design the labels or some of the labels?
No,
Or
she.
where did I get that idea?
Well, we have a sort of a management
Yeah, yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
We all help design labels with a firm
Yeah.
that helped us.
She's had a hand at a lot of stuff.
There was a very limited. We had a Zigareba natural wine in the really small bottles with hand pressed and everything. She designed that label.
Oh, okay. So I knew what I was talking about a little, to a degree. I knew she did at least.
We had
one
six.
label.
We had 6 cases. Of
Oh,
that.
okay.
That's
Okay.
when I say limited, I mean
Sure.
really limited.
Very limited.
It was her pet.
She's
project.
obviously very talented. I mean, this is
Yeah.
fantastic wine. All three, totally different. Just great. And I think the early wineries of the Finger Lakes, because they probably, I don't know how to say this, but the Finger Lakes didn't get a lot of respect for the first 20 years, maybe. Especially as far as reds go, and then all of a sudden, the Rieslings became a big thing. But I think now, as you mentioned earlier, there's so much talent coming to the region. We have such a great climate, and we have old vines now, and it all comes together to really create world-class wine. And I think that not even the next 40 years, but the next 10 years, I think you're really going to see, a huge mark made by the Finger Lakes across the world in terms of the best wines in the world. And when I mentioned the struggles of a lot of other wine regions, whether it's Napa Valley or even in France, we're sitting here in a sweet spot. And when we have talent like your winemaker, and I mean, this Blanc Frankish is unbelievable.
Good. No, yeah, no. I'll do a little. If I have 10 seconds, I'll do a little gripe about the fact that we are we're making world-class wines.
Mhm.
And we can compete with California, Oregon, France, Italy. I truly think no problem.
I agree.
And it drives me personally insane, and I don't know why it is, that when I say local, like restaurants in Rochester and Syracuse, there are hundreds and hundreds of restaurants that only carry California wines.
Oh yeah, and I can't
Oh,
stand
yeah.
that either.
I
Drives
don't-
me nuts too.
I don't understand it.
Especially when you consider that people are traveling here for the wine scene, from across the world, and then to think that they would sit down at a restaurant and not have an option of a Finger Lakes wine. I've seen that before too, and I usually complain about it, when I see that.
The restaurant, Field and Vine, is a Finger Lakes winery, is Finger Lakes restaurant, and I want it to be a restaurant. So we have, I don't know, we sell a dozen other wineries wines, because I really do.
You're leading by example as well.
Yeah, and we are a region, and I want to show off all of the wineries of what's possible. But what we do not do is sell any non-Finger Lakes wines. And I've been asked, and I'm like, you don't go to France and ask for a Finger Lakes wine.
Sure.
Don't come to my restaurant and ask for a French wine. I'm sorry.
And there are exceptions.
Point.
There are things on the other side of the spectrum. I know there's some places on Linden Street now where you can go in and they just have tons of Finger Lakes wine. So that is developing. I've seen that all across all the lakes. There's certain spots where you can go in and you can get your choice from dozens of Finger Lakes wines, as opposed to even the local liquor stores tend to carry a wide variety. And I found that the proprietors of those liquor stores are also pretty knowledgeable as to
Yes.
talking about the Finger Lakes wines and recommending a good Finger Lakes wine. But man, thanks for the the 3-course meal, guys. It was great. Ben, how are things in the kitchen right now? Are you comfortable? Do you like the kitchen? You like your staff?
Oh yeah, everything's super good. That's the thing that goes a lot into it, is to have a positive work environment and a rapport with everyone to put out this type of positive food. I got a lot of good people backing me. Mm-hmm. And we go in and we do a good thing, a good service, and we just do a good job and come out the other side of it for sure.
Field of Vine serving lunch and dinner Wednesday through Sundays. Before we get out of here, I give everybody the weekend weather real quick. It's funny, the past few days we've really kind of feel like we've taken a turn towards fall, which is great by me. I'm not a big heat and humidity fan. I like low 70s, 60s. I love fall in the Finger Lakes, and we're not quite there yet, but this is the last weekend of August. So Friday we're looking at a slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm, otherwise mostly cloudy with a high near 77. Overnight Friday night, getting down to about 63. Saturday, better chance of rain, but still just 50% chance of passing shower, mostly cloudy with a high near 72, so pretty cool. And then overnight Saturday, a low around 57. Might want to break out the blankets Saturday night. And then Sunday, beautiful day, mostly sunny, high near 76. Heading into next week, it looks like it'll be more of the same, sun, low to mid 70s. Just perfect.
Perfect wine trail weather.
Yeah, that is. What's going on at the winery this weekend?
We have music on Saturday. Delta Mike Shaw, who is a local musician, his band is fantastic. Sort of a folky rock. People love him.
What time does that kick off?
That's from 1 to 4. And it's rain or shine. If it's great weather, which it sounds like it will be outside with picnic tables and there's a stage, and if it's bad weather, we bring them inside.
So you can make a day of it. Live music in the afternoon, stay for dinner at the Field and Vine, and perfect Finger Lakes Saturday. So congratulations, first of all, on everything that you guys have accomplished in your first almost 2 years of ownership. Cole and Karen Wilson stop by, say hello at Knapp Winery. And Ben, congratulations on building a new restaurant. I mean, I know that's got to be exciting for you. And
yeah, super. Thank you so much.
Your food's always awesome, and this was evidence of it here. I'd recommend anybody to get to the Field and Vine for lunch or dinner at Knapp Winery. So appreciate you guys coming in, feeding me, letting me have some great wine. And we've done it again, Katherine, another edition of Wine Wednesday.
Yep.
It'll be the last weekend of September when you're back up here, and we'll be right in the middle of fall, and best time of the year.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So thanks everybody for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, click like, share, subscribe. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, have a great final weekend of August right here in the Finger Lakes.